have, probably about an hour to go before Midnight's Edge comes on with their thing today. And lots of stuff going on. As you know, Yellow Flash is being harassed by the rewriting Ripley bitches. Quartering, I saw on Twitter, is actually doing something about this. He's talking to YouTube, mano a mano now. But people are freaked out to the point where Itchy Baka took down his blog. Now, part of it is Itchy's giving up because he thinks Kathy won. You know, I'm speaking to the people who feel that way. You're stealing victory, you're stealing defeat out of the jaws of victory. You're smart enough to know all the politics going on behind the scenes. Kathy has won shit. The reason why she's doing what she's doing is because she knows the end is nigh. And if you don't understand that, you know, I mean, honestly, we have as many people who need things written out in crayon for them to understand as we do people who go, yeah, I get it. There's politics involved. There's Machiavellianism involved. Yesterday's Doomcock video, and, you know, I'm me going back through stuff that Cameron Pasha said on Midnight's Edge. Everything makes sense. Everything. If you honestly think that Kathy Kennedy is this all-powerful, omniscient, eternal being, you're fucking pathetic. And that's the problem. You don't want to win. You don't want to be happy. You're not really fit to fight a war. If you constantly need validation and reassurance. You know, I mean, you're ignoring the first story that came out about Gina. It went up higher than Favreau, and I'm paraphrasing, but it didn't go higher than Lucasfilm. Duh! So who did it? Lucasfilm did it. Kennedy did it. It doesn't take a goddamn fucking genius to understand that. Okay? And if you're such a simple-minded person that you can't put two and two together on that, I can't help you. You know, everybody wants, first off, it's a real need to be right. I've been wrong far more than I've been right. But right now, I feel in my gut that there's good things happening behind the scenes. We just don't get to see them. Like I said, we are weeks behind the news. We don't really know what's going on. We're still talking about Chapek and his, you know, oh, Kathy's great. You know, what's he supposed, you know, I want to ask you guys something. Itchy, the rest of you guys. What the actual fuck was he supposed to say? What you wanted him to say? I'm pissed at you. Because people who give up, you have to go through the shit that I've been through in life to understand what giving up means to me. It's horrifying. It is. I can't deal with people who are like, you know, throw in the bag. She won. Ah. Won what? She finally pissed off the people that needed to be pissed off to begin with. The investors. Okay. Yes, it is Carl. And someone has to convince Itchy not to listen to the people who bank on the fact that they don't want her to lose. And they're now desperate. I mean, why is EVS getting attacked? Why is the quartering having to go to YouTube and have a personal discussion with them? Why? Because these are desperate, all out, in your face, frontal attacks. You only do that when you're overly aggressive and overly desperate. All right. And anybody ever read Machiavelli? Clausewitz on War? I translated Clausewitz on War from the German to English for a class. Sun Tzu, they're breaking every goddamn rule because they're scared shitless. Kennedy broke every goddamn rule by attacking Gina and allowing this to happen. Everybody knew it was her. You'd have to be a goddamn moron to sit there and think Bob Chapek, who's way up there on Mount Everest as a CEO of Disney, knows what the fuck the rest of the people are doing. Okay, that's like, Joe Biden knowing what his press secretary is doing. I mean, that guy's just worried about his next tapioca fix. All right, that's what's going on here. All right, so the idea that Disney's involved only to the point where they weren't paying attention. And that's chain of command issues. That's incompetent leadership on their part. As sure as hell. But the attacks on Gina are all Kathy Kennedy. That's it. That's all. Disney, she said that Disney came to her and said, tone it down. And she wouldn't. But when you look at the Zoom meeting gangbang they wanted to try, that wasn't them. That was Kennedy. That was Kennedy wanting to throw, basically it was the grown-up version of the girl standing out, doing her own thing, in the locker room, getting the shit kicked out of her by all the mean girls. That's exactly what that was. And Gina saw it coming. Gina said, fuck no, I'm not going to do this. All right? That's all that was. Disney had nothing to do with it. Now, Disney has its problem. They got that stories matter thing going on, which I don't think is going to last very long, to be honest. And, but I think the woke blisters are starting to show up in other places because everybody that is woke at Disney is freaking out because they see what's happening. All right? They don't understand their primary responsibility is to make money for the investors. And I'm not talking about mom and pop investors with their 401ks. I'm talking about guys that probably could make sure they never work again anywhere. And you can sit there and take the naysayers, and you know who I'm talking about, and ask them a simple question. Do you know anything about money? Do you know anything about investing? No, they don't. All they know is that they themselves are political fanatics. All right? They themselves don't know how to fuck to make money. Okay? They themselves can't sit back and be pragmatic because they're not. That's the problem with the naysayers in the fandom menace and in the fandom. All right? They don't know. They don't know. Kadish doesn't know. I'm surprised Itchy should know and he doesn't. I mean, yeah, well, they let Gina go. In a year from now, Gina will be back. That's my prediction. And why? Because a year from now, every one of these people that are causing Disney problems are gone. I mean, if you don't want to listen to Cameron, and Andre, and the people that have a clue, fine, right? But don't sit there and shit on the people that actually get it and are willing to throw everything they can into this fight because it's worth it. I didn't spend the last 4 years with my head up my ass doing the Star Wars channel just to give up. I'm not giving up. Fuck that shit. Bring it, bitches. When it's done, I'll be here with my channel intact and you'll all be on the unemployment line. And that's the truth. Okay? When this battle for the soul of our culture started, we all knew, and if you didn't know, we all knew it was going to be a bloody mess. We all knew that. To quote, not my favorite Defense Secretary, Don Rumsfeld, it was going to be a long, hard slog. And it has been. You know, we got a victory, Chuck Wendig. Yes, he did. And I think he still does. But he walked away from his blog. Hey, Lucas Carpenter. And it's too bad. And I'm kind of mad at him. No, to be honest, I'm really mad at him. I can't, it's like, you know, pulling the plug on a patient that's going to live. Because you are so blind to your own things that you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, that's the problem here. All right, and it's too bad. It's literally like, you know, I don't understand it. I don't get it. You know, there's still gonna be battles ahead. Because, you know, when this happens, when this goes down, and now that the investors were talking about it at that call, and, you know, Chapek said the politically correct thing to save A, his job, B, spare Disney stocks, and B, not be in legal trouble with Kennedy's legions of vipers, lawyers. That was the moment of victory to me. That was the light at the end of the tunnel. And then we had the Del Vecchio story in Forbes. And he basically told Sci-Fi for You, I said what I said and I'm done talking about it. He was asked to write that by somebody. Okay? He was compiling all this stuff. Now, you know, could it have just been Lucas putting it out there? No, it wasn't George. It wasn't George that did that. I don't think, you know, maybe it was, but I'm going to say it was Bob Chapek. You know, Southern California is a big place, and so is UCLA. And, you know, just because the guy teaches at UCLA doesn't mean it was George who asked him to do it. Now, let's talk about George's video, Melanie Hobson's video coming down. Everybody knows that Melanie's video came down, but with George talking about Star Wars, and he didn't really say a lot. He just said, it's not my Star Wars. They didn't want to listen to me. You know, basically, I'm, you know, paraphrasing. Tom has it. Anna has it. You know, everyone's freaking out. Oh, Disney took it down. Kennedy took it down. George probably took it down. All right? It was up there. It did what it had to, and now it's gone. Think about that. We all saw it. We put it out there. There you go. You don't fight a war full frontal. Not like this. Okay? Again, read your Machiavelli. Read your Sun Tzu. Read your Clausewitz. What is the center of gravity, to use a philosophy from Clausewitz, of the story group? Their political motives. That is all they have. They're not talented, so you go after their talent. You go after their weaknesses. They're not talented. Their product sucks. They're not making any money, hence, there you go. Which is exactly what is going on now with the investors, the lords, the wolves of Wall Street, the guys that sit on thrones made of dollar bills going, fuck you, pay me. All right? You think I'm kidding? That's what this is about. The weakness, and we've talked about this. We saw this coming for years. World Class Bullshitters has done massive amount of research onto the lack of merchandise sales. The toys aren't selling. No one wants this shit. The kids don't want this shit. You know, I've walked into antique stores and seen 12-inch Finn dolls. Finn at an antique store. Why? Because Walmart or Target or Kohl's or whatever couldn't sell them. Okay? So they were like, there it goes. Okay, and that's what's going on. Okay? And, you know, it's very interesting watching people who should know better follow the complete opposite, you know, opinion, or like the if this is a court of law, there's more evidence right now saying Kennedy's in major trouble than there is saying Kennedy is fine. All right, and I'm not kidding. I could prove she's out the door. In fact, all right, if I was a lawyer, you know, we've got the fact that the overwhelming response to Luke showing up, Pablo Hidalgo's ridiculous, immature, teenage, fat beta male response to Star Wars theory. Then we've got the fact that, oh, it doesn't surprise me. That trailer, it doesn't surprise me. This is where Disney Star Wars is. Molding on the shelves at Ollie's. It's where it is. Yet we're loose. Yet Kennedy's in power because of the imagined, you know, politics in Hollywood. And then Cameron gets on there and says, well, that's kind of dying now. Recalcitrant person who needs Kennedy there to validate his opinions. And through one ear rolls around in the head and flies out the other end without understanding what anybody said. The problem with the naysayers is they listen to respond. They don't listen to understand. Okay, and if you haven't worked in the financial sector or politics, then you wouldn't understand at all. You know, and the weakness, again, for Kennedy's Star Wars story group and everything else is the fact that their product doesn't sell. That, and their center of gravity is their politics. Via their politics is their shitty product. And their shitty product doesn't sell. How do you defeat them? You go after the product. You go after their sales. You go after their lack of financial earning. You know, and I tell you a story. When a guy is a made man in the mob or even an associate, he's part of a crew. And he's got, you know, money out in the street, Shylock money and gambling and all the rest of the stuff. He's not earning any money. What happened to that guy? And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. All right? If you didn't earn your keep, you were gone. All right? And I'm not kidding. And if you're a division of a company as big as Disney, with all its financial troubles, and you run that company into a place where it's losing the most money of all, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think you're going to get re-signed to your next contract? Do you think, you know, and all this, well, they really couldn't find the, you know, from 3 years ago, well, they really can't find anybody to take over for her. That was 3 years ago and you're still dredging this up? What's changed? Bob Chapek's in charge. The trilogy's over. What's changed? A lot. A lot could change in a year. Okay? That's what we have to understand. And a lot, you know, and it's like, if you got someone who's only been in Hollywood for 10 years and they left almost 10 years ago, and they're telling you what Hollywood's really like now, and the last time they set foot there was in 2012, it's like, what? You know, they don't know what the fuck is going on. They don't talk to the people every day. There are people in the Phantom Menace that do, and their opinions are a lot different than the people who ran away. And if, and that's a problem. You got to be current on everything. Times change. I mean, things change from week to week. I mean, what did Cameron say when Gina first got quote unquote canned, or told they weren't going to use her anymore, which is more actually appropriate? This Jewish guy, very Jewish, was like, good to Cameron. 2 weeks later, he's like, she's a very sweet person. I don't think what happened to her was the right thing. That guy's a big producer. Do you think he's the only one who's saying that? Do you? Go over there and sit in the corner and think about that. For every one person who speaks out loud to other people, I don't like what they did now, there are at least 5 others, if not more, saying the same thing or thinking the same thing. All right? That's called extrapolating data. How many people does that person represent? Just his own opinion? And who else has he been talking to? That's the thing. People have to understand. Okay? This isn't over by a long shot. Giving up, walking away, shutting down your blog because Kathy won. What a goddamn chicken shit thing to do. All right? And I don't like starting drama, but I can't deal with people who give up. I can't. It's not in me. Okay? It's like, why? There's all this stuff going on. You're watching people literally lose their shit online at us. Why? Because they know it's coming and they're trying to stop it or prep the battlefield to blame us when she's gone. Because when she's gone, they're gone. She's the only person keeping that bullshit circus in the story group together. And they all know that. Pablo knows that. He's protected by her. He won't be protected when the new person comes, if there is. And if you think Favreau would keep him around, no. Filoni doesn't follow him on Twitter. They used to follow each other, now they don't. Want to know why? Because Pablo is a jackass. He isn't a Star Wars fan. He is a political fanatic. I think you're right. I think you're right, Carl, and I really, really do. This is a signal that these people are losing their grip. I could talk a lot about the Chinese money. They're not getting any Chinese money. You ask anybody who's honest about how the Chinese do business is they take all of it, or most of it. I mean, Chinese box office is nothing. It really, I mean, and they know that now. They know that trying to kiss China's ass, that's Bob Iger's thing. I don't think Chapek really likes doing business with them. And I really think that he'd like to kind of cut his losses and go. I'm not sure though. It's very interesting to me. All the other stuff going on at Disney too. I mean, they've closed 60 plus Disney stores across the country. And yet the idea that some have that Kennedy is inviolable, like she's some sort of untouchable being is bullshit. And yet these people run with it because they don't understand what's going on. Now, I might be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll come on here and say, yeah, I was wrong. They fucked us all over again. But I don't think I am this time. Because the world has changed significantly from 2018 to now. 3 years ago, we're still ahead of Solo coming out. I didn't even begun to see the losses from that. That's when she should have gone. But there was no way in hell anybody was going to come in and take over for her. And then last year we get the rumor that she basically told everybody she was leaving in a year. And now she goes after Carano. And my theory is still there. She's daring Chapek to fire her. Chapek should, but I think what he's going to do is he's going to wait and then do it when the investors give him the go-ahead. You or her. Well, it's her. I mean, she's, go and make whatever shitty straight-to-streaming piece of shit she wants. And Oscar bait. That's what she's there for. They talk about The Acolyte. They're never going to, that movie, Disney, I'm going to tell you right now, wherever she goes, that idea is going with her. Wherever she goes, Children of Blood and Bone is going with her. Lucasfilm may technically be a part of it, but she won't be running Star Wars. She won't be running Indiana Jones. In fact, Tom at Midnight's Edge doesn't feel like they're going to make Indy 5. The only way they don't make Indy 5, in my opinion, is if Ford says, I had enough of this shit. He walks away. And I hope that's not true. Of course it is. And it's either he's afraid of being found out, which is like, you're never anonymous on the internet. That was a given. Okay, so please. Or he's giving up. Because, I'm going to say this. I am a classic liberal. I am a Jeffersonian libertarian. But when I vote because, quote unquote, conservatives actually lean the way I do, strict constitutionalist, freedom for everybody, individual rights, la la la. A lot of hardcore, strict conservatives are incredibly negative. Reagan's message of the happy warrior is lost on them completely. They love to be miserable. Rush Limbaugh was not a miserable man. Sean Hannity is not. Let not your heart be troubled. My friend Dana Lash is not miserable. All right? I'm not. All right? You can't be. You have to understand how this is all working. If Andrew Breitbart was still alive, he'd be telling us to calm down. This is not over. I know it. We're in the fourth quarter here. All right? Breitbart wasn't a conservative. He was a classic liberal like me. He was called a racist, whatever, because he basically stuck up for free speech. If you stick up for free speech against the hard left, you will be torn apart. Even if you'll be called every name in the book, and we've seen that. I've been called every name in the book. I don't give a fuck. Okay, I really, really don't. I'm like, and the reason is because that's all they have. Divide and conquer. And you gotta understand, just because you feel miserable doesn't mean everybody else is miserable. Just because you're looking at something and see shit doesn't mean it's really shit. Okay, it's an opportunity. All right, Kennedy went behind their backs, hiring Leslie Headland. She went behind their backs at another time, and did something, she's made so many incompetent leadership mistakes, and she hasn't been seen. She won't, take one for the team. With the Gina Carano thing, it wasn't her fault, she's one of those people that if I can't have it, no one can. Which is another thing is, this is scorched earth. And I'll give you an example of scorched earth, literally in war. When the Germans were coming into Russia, Stalin basically gave the order to burn every town, every village, every piece of civilization as the Russian army and the Russian people retreated. That's scorched earth. Scorched earth. Hitler gave the German army the ordered to burn down Paris. They were like, "Fuck you," and then in order to save their lives, the generals, they surrendered. I think they surrendered to the Allies. So because if they had gone back, disobeyed orders, execution. You don't want that to happen. But this is scorched earth. Kennedy's very pissed because I guarantee you, she had Spielberg walk away. If Harrison Ford walks away, yeah, I mean, she knew it was. She knew, that it wasn't gonna last. Her legacy. I don't know what she thinks her legacy is. To me, as a woman, it's embarrassing. She can't work with men, real men. I would love to work with people like Ridley Scott and Chris Nolan and, those guys. She can't deal with it because they're males, they're men. James Mangold, I'm surprised, has been working as long as he has been on the Indy 5 script. I'm not kidding. And I'm surprised he's still there. If they lose him, it's done. If they lose Ford, it's done. Oh yeah. God, Lonely Seth. When my dad was a World War II veteran. He was with the 8th Army Air Force during the war, flew missions, bomber missions, and Pathfinder missions in B-24s over Germany, and then he transferred to the 9th Air Force, and they were actually gearing up to go to Japan when Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened, thus saving about 1 million American lives, and probably my dad's and my uncle's. Because when you look at the fight for Saipan, and I've actually been to Saipan, I was in the cave where General Saito committed suicide. That place is fucking haunted. The clips where they show Japanese civilians jumping off? I went up there and looked. You can still see holes in the sides of the cliff where the battleships were during the bombardment of Saipan. My dad was a veteran and a combat veteran. My mom was Rosie the Riveter. And I grew up with it. My oldest brother, he died in 2006, but he was born in 43. And I was born in 68, so there's an entire generation between him and me. An entire completely separate generation. Those were the boomers. He was not a boomer. And World War II to me is, oh yeah, Sakura, you're right. World War II to me is the moment when the United States became the legit thing, the legit power, and the legit moment for us, defining moment. And we were going to be vilified, and we're being vilified now by our own people because critical race theory and stuff. But anybody knows history, knows U.S. history, knows history in general, like Greco-Roman history, the history of Palestine and the Jews, the history of, I took the history of China, the history of Mexico. Talk about a fucked up place. Not getting their shit together. Okay. The only places that really got their act together as far as being nations are the United States, Canada, and Australia. What's the common thread? The British Empire. Okay? That's it. All right. And I'm not I love Britain. I love their history. I love the history of the Vikings. But the history of the United States in general, World War II in particular, and the history of Germany, because my father's family was from the area of Bavaria around near the Austrian Bavarian border. We're not quite sure which side of the border they were on, whether they're Austrian or German. And it depended on my mom's temper if dad was Austrian or German when they were arguing. But that's, mom was Norwegian and Welsh. Her last name was Itri. And that's an interesting story all of its own. But yeah, I know a lot about that history and a lot about the history of the Great Depression and the gangsters back then because, strangely enough, and I'll get back to Star Wars, my mom, back in 1940, she was 18 years old, 17 years old, was working at a Venetian blind factory in Chicago. When Grandpa lost the farm in Reedstown, he went to Chicago, packed up the girls and Grandma. No, it was Grandpa was off the boat, but no, I mean, you grow up in America, you're not going to have an accent. I mean, she was born and raised here. That's her heritage. If you're not American and you don't understand that, white Americans can be Irish and Italian and German, and we're Americans. That's what the melting pot is. All these ethnicities went like that. This is America. These are all the white people, and this is an American. Oh, that became us. No, Grandma. No, so Grandpa, he came off the boat from Norway in 1908. He actually came over on the maiden voyage of the Lusitania. And he met my grandmother. She was a first grade teacher in Reedstown. He went and enrolled first grade to learn English. And they got married. And they lost the farm during the Depression, so he packed up everybody. Mom, the three girls, my mom and her sisters and grandma, and they went to Chicago and he got a job right away. The big cities were hiring. Okay. The Depression hit rural areas very hard. Big cities, yeah, but not as much. It's if you're lucky enough to have actually talked to someone who lived back then, it's a history that the historians don't want to talk about. So Mom, when she got old enough, started working at this Venetian blind factory run by a Sicilian family named Canizzaro. Hey, Dave, she dated one of the kids. He was one of the boys that helped his uncle manage the factory. Guess what her uncle actually had been doing? I want you all to guess. This is Chicago. He's Sicilian. Or maybe he was from Naples. But nobody can guess. He was a soldier in the Capone outfit. Okay? It's not mental, Sikori. It's not mental. Okay? It's not mental. Mom wasn't. But back then, women had a lot more freedom to choose the guys they wanted. They didn't just, meet a cute guy and fuck him, which is what they do now, and they think that's freedom. And it's like, oh God. No, that's you being a whore. You're being a fucking slut. Okay? And you're not suppressed if you keep your legs crossed. You're not. You're that hard up, get an electric boyfriend. Okay? Young women, my mom was beautiful. She was a dish. She was really a dish. She could have been a movie star. She was dating a kid that ended up being a PhD in engineering, who I guess they talked about getting married, and then he joined the Navy and then never wrote her a letter. Boy, was he shocked when he saw her wedding picture in a photographer's studio in the window. And then she meets him at the door with my brother Bill. You know, the lines of communication are kind of important. Mom dated that guy. She dated this Italian kid, or this, kid whose family was either Sicilian or from Naples, and probably a soldier in the family there. And she met my dad, and she married my dad. Girls choose. They were courted. My Aunt June dated 7 guys at the same time. Did she fuck any of them? No. She married my Uncle Stanley. She's just like, I'll choose him. I like him the best. He's the best fit. That's what they did. Nowadays, it's like, let's hook up. Fine. If that's the way you want to live. But I'm gonna judge you to correct you. If you don't like it, don't do that shit. Okay? That's just me. Been there, done that. I bought into that when I was in college. Not a way to live. Not a way to have a decent idea of who you are. Okay? But let's get back. But, so yeah, those are stories my family would tell me. My dad went to Chicago, followed her there, but he got 2 jobs right away. And he dated Mom and, worked 2 jobs. My grandfather, you think Norwegian guys are big, tall, broad shoulders guys. No, my grandfather was about 5'4", little dude. And Grandma was a very small person. So Dad would go over there for dinner, and he would buy 2 hot dogs on the way and eat them, so he would feel full when he was done eating with them, because he was huge. My dad was 6'3". He was a big man, very tall, lanky, Gary Cooper, John Wayne type, and he was still a young man growing. So, if you're not getting all the food you need, and it was kind of funny, but that's just the way it is. And just all if you don't talk to your parents about how they grew up and your grandparents, and you don't get your identity from that, you're an idiot. It's valuable. It's who you are. Those things, your family history makes you who you are, almost more so than your environment. That's my belief anyway. But anyway, back to Star Wars. In my opinion, and we've got, how long have I been on? 43 minutes. I just got a text from my husband, so I'm going to wrap this up because we got way off on a tangent, talk about World War II. This has been a long, hard slog. All right. To put it bluntly, it's been a very long, hard slog. I've had this channel since 2017. You're right, Dave, it does. And we've had ups and downs. Okay? Now, I'll tell you what we know. There's no way in hell Rian Johnson has a trilogy. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Tom. That's absolutely perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Right now, they're abusing us, and they've been abusing us. But we have a legitimate way to attack them through their lack of selling merchandise and all the rest of that shit. They can't counter the argument that they can't sell shit. So what they do is they smear us. And I really think that if they succeed and like shutting down yeah, it has, Dave. It's gone. This has gone on as long as America's involvement in World War II. And as far as I'm concerned, right now, I equate what's going on right now to the Battle of Iwo Jima. Okay? And, we lost John Basilone in that battle within like the first 6 hours. A lot of shit went down. And and that was a long fight. That was a month-long fight, or longer than that. But we're you know, that alone was a tough fight, and it would have been a lot tougher for us to go through a lot of other things, the invasion of the home islands. But we never had to because we had the ultimate weapon at the time, which was the atomic bomb, and we dropped it. And I think investors raising questions about Kennedy at Investors Call is a huge, huge step in the right direction. Okay, I'd say look for more of it. And I'm going to say this, and a lot of people are like, well, we don't know that. It's like, well, no, we don't. It was just some stupid investor calling out of his ass that the big investors don't notice that they're losing money. No, they didn't notice that, everything Kennedy does gets ratioed into the ground. Give me a break. Give me a fucking break. Think, all right? Think. If mom and pop investors with their 401ks are going, again, I'm going to say this and underline it 3 times with red, circle it with red. The big investors have asked about it. The investors are firing Gina because that's why all this shit's going on now. I'm going to say this. If they had left, no, they didn't. And now they do. But no one cares about that because now, I guess we're starting a trend with we want to see George's sequel trilogy. Okay? That's what we want to see. We don't want to see the Abrams anything. We want to see George's vision up on the screen. Okay? Even if they have to animate it. Fucking do it. Okay? Period. Firing Gina was the biggest mistake Kennedy has ever made of all of them. All right? And the ramifications are wide and deep. She went into hiding. Her minions are freaking out. According to Quartering, they're putting, legal notices on their bios saying, the opinions of this account aren't reflective of the company. They're, and of course, we've got Rewriting Ripley going, they're doxing us. Those 2 fucking bitches had their full names on their goddamn blog. They did. Okay. They doxed themselves. Okay. So giving up right now, like Itchy did, is to me, I don't understand it. I don't understand the mentality behind it. I would think Anthony Ingruber would do a good job as Solo in live action or voicing him. And I think Billy Lord could do Leia. I just do. But, I don't know. I mean, trust me, there are girls out there that can actually do Leia quite well. Anyway, I gotta go. And I'll talk to y'all later because I got that text from my husband. I gotta figure out what's going on. Midnight's Edge, I think, is coming up soon. So I'll see you all there. See you around the galaxy.